Imagine coming home from a 40-hour plus week and realizing that your electricity has been turned off. You've called the electrical company several times to attempt to get an extension or some form of help, but there is none. This is the reality millions of Americans face every day. With over 2.2 million Americans making their state minimum wage, which in some states is as low as $7.25, this doesn't count it for people, especially those raising children. Now, this doesn't count the millions of Americans that live slightly above the minimum wage, but are also struggling to make ends meet. With over 3 million people living below the poverty line, politicians and scholars from a range of disciplines grapple at a way to find better ways to lift people out of poverty. Many Americans have been faced with the hard decision of whether they pay your bills or have medicine and food. Raising the minimum wage would also bring relief to the nation's already strained economy by freeing up some of the $364 billion that is allotted for government assistance and welfare programs. Many Americans are forced to turn to these alternatives because they just have nowhere else to turn. Raising the minimum wage would allow people to help themselves better themselves, and free themselves from needing to depend on government assistance. Another argument against raising minimum wage is that many workers believe that service workers will be replaced by computers and other automated processes. Although many companies have begun to introduce self-service kiosks and other computer-based programs into their establishments, many people prefer to talk to or to be serviced by a human. Many older Americans, when faced with a kiosk of some sort or an actual customer service representative, would definitely choose the latter. Many believe that raising the minimum wage will force employers to fire or lay off many workers due to the expense of higher wage. Raising the minimum wage would in fact increase consumer spending and can boost the demand for goods and services, causing money to circulate in the economy and create a virtuous cycle that benefits both workers, businesses, and communities. According to the University of Michigan's Economics Growth Institute, they believe that a minimum wage should vary state to state, hitting a sweet spot at about 60% of the state's median wage. That would ensure that the lowest wage workers will have the same standard of living no matter where they live, and they will also minimize any potential for job loss due to a higher rate. A gradual increase in wages would be the best course of action to weed out and head out any potential adverse effects. This would lessen the burden on companies' budget because it will also be an anticipated move that would allow less skilled workers to have the ability to obtain more education on their current field or find a field that they would be a better fit at. Floridians are slated to vote for Amendment 2 on November 3rd, 2020. If approved, the amendment would set Florida's minimum wage at $10 an hour by 2021. And each year after that, the rate would increase by $1 until it's reached $15 an hour by 2026. Amendment 2 must reach and receive 60% of the vote. So go out and vote on November 3rd. It's the right thing to do.